What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG down there. We like magic. And over the weekend, we had the first tournament of Eldritch Moon Standard. This is a big tournament. It's SCG Open Columbus. And Opens tend to be pretty large tournaments, and Columbus is a pretty big city, from what I understand. So, we had a good sample size, and we get to see what new cards are most powerful, and people definitely played with the new cards. So, let me take you through the top 8. It's not often I get to do this, but I can actually tell you what the first, third, and fifth place decks were right off the rip. Coming in first today, and those other positions, was Bant Company, which had a huge showing. Coming in first with his Bant Company list was Devin Kepke, whose name I love. Third place was Kyle Bojems, whose name I'm probably butchering. And fifth place was Dan Jessup. Now there were some very key differences, especially between the first place deck and the third and fifth place decks. But most notably, the big additions to the deck that everyone knew was good and really helped carry it through the day were Spell Queller and Thalia. Both of these are very good against other collected company decks and have the added bonus of being pretty awesome against green-white tokens too. Well, that's evidenced by the fact that tokens, which many say is the best deck in the format, and I've said it before too, it got hurt all day, mostly by this deck, and it only appears once in the top 8. Meanwhile, this Bant Company list, and a bunch like it, came in a lot of different spots in the top 32 here. There's a lot of Bant Company at this tournament, mostly again because of Spell Queller and Thalia, and everyone knew those were going to be amazing. Now this list right here that I'm showing you is Devin's list, not only because he came in first place, but also because his list is much different than the other collected company lists that we saw, not only today, but for the last few months in the format. So, you know, Kyle and Dan, the third and fifth place Bant Company players, they both kept a lot of older cards. You know, a little bit more traditional. They played Bounding Krasis, Lambholt Pacifist, and Nissa, Basswood Seer, all in the main. But as you can see, Dev used more of the new cards than either Kyle or Dan, and he cut Pacifist and Nissa to the board, and he cut Krasis entirely, which is just gasp, right? The other big difference, besides the cards he cut, is one specific creature that he elected to play a playset of that doesn't appear in either of the other lists in the entire 75, and that's Selfless Spirit, which I may have made it clear how much I really like this card. It's unbelievable at instant speed with Coco, it combos with Avacyn well, and it interacts with Dromoka's command, because instead of trading a creature in a fight, you can just sack the Selfless Spirit, keep the counter on your dude. Add in that it's good in virtually every combat situation, you get a really powerful card. Overall, Bant Company looks poised to be a force for the next couple of months, but don't despair, it's only got a couple of months before Collected Company rotates out. Right now Cocoa is hot, but it won't be long before it cools off and we get to stop making stupid hot chocolate jokes. Because I am no longer in love with the cocoa, is all I'm saying. But we got to move on to the second place deck of the day, and this is by far the weirdest deck of the day, but it's already got a bunch of people loving it, so let's check it out. This right here is Sultai Control by Aire, a name we've heard a bunch of times before. Now, like I said, super weird deck, especially from the standpoint of like traditional deck construction theory. It's a control deck with no counter spells, and it plays 14 creatures. It's got a random ramp piece in it, Hedron Archive, and all of this in the main. It's got a soft sort of delirium theme. It uses Jace and Liliana, even Oath of Jace out of nowhere to fill your yard up, and it's got a lot of new stuff with delirium, like Scour the Laboratory, Emrakul, which is sort of honorarily has delirium, and it's even got a copy of Ishkana, which is not the only time we'll see Ishkana in this top 8, which is just the greatest thing ever. Everyone knew Ishkana was going to be awesome. Turns out everyone was right. This deck also has like 10 removal spells and Sylvan Advocate as well to help sort of hold down the fort in the early game. Hold down the fart in the early game, and Languish will reset the board in the mid game, and then we can finish it off by just playing like a huge creature. Or we can just turtle and pick stuff off. You know, Den Protector will get back a big Sylvan Advocate for us. We can just win, you know. So a lot of different ways to win in this deck, but in the very late game. Now, Aire he's known for stuff like this, you know, strange stuff. And although this deck will probably undergo a lot of changes, it looks like a rough draft. It's already an example of, I guess, a master at work. It does fit in summary dismissals in the sideboard, as well as a bunch of other stuff in the sideboard that's interesting. And, you know, I think that, again, there's just a lot of room to improve with this deck. But it's already looking like a lot of fun to play, and like a lot of different pieces that are just fun to play disparately and come together really well. Coming in fourth was a deck that we've seen all format, and I've already talked about it a little bit today. This was Green-White Tokens, piloted by Eric Rill. Now, I actually don't have that much to say about this deck, because it's almost exactly the same Green-White tokens list that we've seen for like months now, but there is one really, really sweet difference. Eric played 2 copies of, here she is again, Ishkana, which is super awesome. Like in combination with Gideon's Emblem and Nissa's counters and stuff, Ishkana and all her babies can provide like pretty insane board presence on the turn you cast her, and add to that she's another 5 toughness threat in a format that where like 5 toughness dodges 2 of the most played removal spells. So adding Ishkana was a good call, but I'm a little surprised there's no black mana in the land base. That's slightly surprising, so that's weird. But overall, the deck is still as solid as it ever was. And honestly, it didn't need to evolve too much. It was already a really, really powerful deck. Really liking all the love for Ishkana. You know, a lot of people have already figured out this card is amazing, and that's another thing that we said was probably really awesome. So I'm glad that it's seeing some love. Ishkana is sort of a personal favorite from this set. But let's move on here. 6th place, because we already know 5th was Bant Company. But 6th place right here is Green Red Goggles by Matthew Volts, who has just about the coolest last name ever. But this is the only deck in the top 8 that, this is weird, actually didn't play a single new card somewhere in the 75, and actually it only played 1 piece from Shadows of Innistrad, Traverse the Uvenwald. Now, we haven't really seen this deck pop up in too many top 8s lately. It's been a lot about the blue-red goggles. But this deck was big when Brad Nelson played it for the Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. So, and he top 8'd with it. We haven't really seen much from it since then. This deck right here looks like a really streamlined version. It's definitely a response to the format because it's cut Ulamog, of all things, another gasp, and it plays more Fiery Impulses and Kozilek's Return, sort of, again, as a response to the barrage of small creature decks right now in the format. It still wins the same. It wins off of World Breaker and Atarka. I guess it figured that it didn't need Ulamog, or Mog was just too slow and you had to devote too many ramp pieces to it. So World Breaker and Atarka are still really reliable win conditions. Or you could just play like a huge Fall of the Titans with the goggles, or you could just Chandra, she can win the game by herself. So simple, easy, super effective, all the removal is too, in a format with a bunch of decks that play like 30 plus creatures. And we don't want to be fooled by Green Red Goggles again. Is it just another sort of thing that happened at Pro Tour Shadows? You know, it's a big deck for one day and then like nothing really happens. And like Green Red Goggles still pops up occasionally, you know, you see Goggles ramp, but mostly it's like Green Red ramp, and that's not even that important of a deck in the format. So will this fizzle out, or is it real? I mean, it didn't even use that many new cards, so we'll see. We'll see if just because it's a response, is it good? You know, a lot of questions with a deck like this, but I do think the deck looks awesome. It's looked awesome since day 1, months ago, so still pretty darn good. On to number 7 here, and I actually can't wait to get to number 8. It's my favorite, but we'll hold on for a second. Number 7, 7th place, was Green-Black Seasons Past. We get to see a Seasons Past deck again, so this is looking a little bit like a repeat in some ways of Pro Tour Shadows. But this Green-Black Seasons Past has evolved quite a bit, but surprisingly, it only uses one thing from Eldritch Moon, just a single copy of Liliana, but she is really effective in the list. She can pull creatures out of your graveyard in the game late, or she can allow you to hold off opposing creatures in the early to sort of mid-game. It's really nice to get her back with the Seasons Past, and then get more stuff back with her. Or, you know, even if he's exhausted their resources at that point, she becomes sort of a doom clock, but a slow one, but a clock nonetheless. You know, with all the decks that tried Ishkana today, I'm a little surprised to not see her right here. But still, Seasons Past has always been known as a really flexible deck, and has a habit of sneaking into top 8. And this time was absolutely no different, and we could see more Seasons Past decks. You know, like I said, they pop up every now and again. You see Seasons Past in top 8s, and they're always, you know, different lists. We see like different one-ofs, this or that. So still going through some tweaks is Seasons Past, and Seasons Past is going to be around for a while. I'm not sure what form it'll take after rotation, but it'll be around for a while, and people are going to be making these sort of odd attunements to it every now and again too. So it's good to see that it's still a thing in the format, and that it can still do some work. And even if it doesn't use the new cards, although I will say Liliana, a really good pickup. Finally, the 8th place deck of the day. The deck that I've already told you, this is easily my favorite deck right here. I'm just really happy about this deck. And I can't explain it. I've always loved Orzhov, you know, all that. I love mid-range decks like this. Anyway, on to it. Get on with it. We've got Black-White Angels right here, piloted by Ronnie Rittner. I love alliterative names. But anyway, again, just really my favorite deck of the day by a lot, if you can't tell. It's basically a mid-range / control deck with tons of removal, a bunch of high-powered creatures. Not only is Ronnie playing Gisela and Bruna, so you can meld them together, but like Thalia's Lancers even gets to hang out. But that makes a ton of sense. Check out Emma Handy's article about this deck and Thalia's Lancers talk in that same article on Star City for more on that topic. I'll give you a link in the description. Very good article. And Liliana, by the way, again makes an appearance in a third deck in the top 8. So, and this is only for the haters. I just want to say, told you so about Liliana. A lot of people hated Liliana and were like, nah, it's terrible, it's a bad card. But me and a few others here on YouTube tried to tell you how good this card was. Appears 3 times in the top 8 of the first tournament. I'm telling you, the card is real. But anyway, if I was going to sleeve up any of these decks from today, it would definitely be this one. Looks super fun. It's got 14 removal spells, a bunch of huge flying threats. It's got Sorin. I just really would like to play this deck. Kind of a lot. And that is the top 8 of SCG Open Columbus, the first big tournament of Eldritch Moon Standard. So how's the format going to evolve from here? We've got a lot of big events coming up, so we'll have to wait and see, but there's definitely going to be some big evolutions and maybe even some decks that come out of nowhere. That tends to happen too on Pro Tours at least. So keep it posted. I'll keep you posted. You keep me posted too in the comments section. Let me know how you felt about all this. Like the video if you enjoyed it. That helps me more than just about anything you could possibly do. And then subscribe, because that is also a huge help when you get to see all the other stuff that we do. Coming up next is our Green-Black Delirium deck tech, which I've been working super hard on. Got skip plan and all that stuff. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, my wizards.
Look, see there, I tried to tell you not to test my rage, cause you just a yellow belt and I'm a just guy stage. You know the deadly martial arts of the black and the white lotus. Someday I'ma be the POTUS, you'll still be a giant scrotum, and I'll be at the podium and you'll be sodium salty.